One old floppy disk helped change a cold case, not because a computer solved a case on its own, and not because one hidden file proved who had sent it. The disk created a lead. Investigators then had to test that lead against the real world. That distinction is the story. This episode looks at the BTK investigation in Wichita, Kansas, and at the small piece of digital evidence that helped narrow a long search in 2005. We will stay away from graphic detail. The point is not to relive harm. It is to follow an evidence turn. What a file can reveal, what it cannot reveal, and why careful investigations do not stop at the first answer. For years, the person calling himself BTK had communicated with police and the media, then fell silent. The FBI and contemporaneous reporting describe a new round of communications in 2004. For investigators, every new contact was an opportunity to collect information. A message can carry language, timing, paper, packaging, or a clue about where it came from. In this case, one of those opportunities became digital. Early in 2005, a computer disk was sent during that exchange. The question around it sounded simple. Can a disk be traced? The more useful question was more careful. What information might still be present, even if the sender believes it has been removed? When we talk about a file, we usually mean the words, picture, or spreadsheet we can see. But files can also carry surrounding information. That information is commonly called metadata. Depending on the file and the software, it may include a creator name and organization, the program used to save it, dates, or other settings. Those details are not magic. They can be wrong, copied from a different computer, outdated, or changed. They are useful only when they give someone a specific question to test. The FBI's public history of the case says forensic examination of the disk found a deleted file containing the name, Dennis, and a church in Wichita. The important word there is lead. A first name and a church are not a conviction. Many people can share a name. A church can have many members. A computer can be used by more than one person. A field inside a document may say something about a system or a setting, not necessarily about the person who committed a crime, but a lead can still matter. Before the disk, the search was huge. After the disk, investigators had a smaller set of places, people, records, and dates to compare. That is how evidence often works. It does not announce a final answer. It changes the next question from, who could this be? To, does this particular possibility survive independent checks? That is the first discipline of evidence work. A clue is a direction, not a destination. If the direction is sound, it should survive checks that do not depend on the clue itself. Investigators can compare records, timelines, movements, access, and other lawfully obtained evidence. They can look for contradictions. They can discard a lead when later checks do not support it. The public record does not support the movie version of this story, where a detective presses one button and the case ends. It supports a longer process. A disk was examined, a lead was developed, further information was gathered, and the case moved through the legal system. The legal outcome is clear in the public court record. Dennis Rader was arrested in February 2005. On June 27, 2005, he pleaded guilty to 10 counts of first-degree murder. He received 10 consecutive life terms. That outcome matters here for a specific reason. It reminds us not to treat a clever clue as the whole explanation. The disk helped investigators get traction. The case was resolved through a much wider investigative and legal process. There is an easy way to tell this story badly. It goes like this. A suspect made one computer mistake. Police clicked a button and a mystery ended. But its version is quick, but it hides the work that protects an investigation from a wrong turn. Evidence has to be preserved. Analysts have to document what they found. Investigators have to distinguish a system name from a human identity. And prosecutors have to meet a standard far higher than, this looks promising. The slower version is more useful. A disk arrived. Specialists examined it. A deleted file offered a lead involving a name and a church. The lead was checked against additional information. Investigators made an arrest. The case then moved through court. Each stage has a different job. The first stage finds a question. The next stage tests it. The last stage has to prove a case under the law. Metadata is a useful lens because it feels ordinary. Most of us create it every day. A document may retain a name entered when a computer was set up. A photo may retain a date, time, or device detail. A spreadsheet may carry revision information. None of that is automatically reliable. A date can be wrong. A file can be copied. A device can be shared. But when a detail aligns with separate facts, it can become part of a stronger pattern. Think of 3 boxes on an evidence desk. The first box contains a file detail. The second contains records that may connect to it. The third contains separate evidence that either supports or weakens that connection. Responsible work does not move an item from the first box to the third simply because the story feels neat. It leaves room for the lead to be wrong. It records why the lead was followed, and it records what later confirmed or challenged it. That restraint protects people. In a high-profile investigation, an early lead can attract enormous attention. A person can be publicly treated as guilty long before the evidence has been tested. Careful language is not a technicality. It is a safeguard. This is a lead is not the same as this is the person. This record is consistent with a theory is not the same as the theory is proven. The BTK case also shows why old evidence and newer technology can meet in unexpected ways. A cold case is not frozen in time. Fresh review of stored material, new forensic methods, and new information can create opportunities that did not exist before. But the standard should not change just because a tool is new. The standard is still corroboration, independent facts that agree, documented steps that can be reviewed, and legal process that tests the final claim. The point is not that metadata is always decisive. It is that small technical details can be meaningful when investigators use them with discipline. A deleted document can leave a name. A name can point to a place. A place can lead to records and questions. But every arrow in that chain has to be checked. That is what makes the floppy disk more than a piece of computer trivia. The disk did not replace detective work. It focused it. It turned a vast search into a testable lead, and the later corroboration is what made that lead matter. Next, we move from a hidden file to a different kind of record, lab results. In the Theranos story, the central question is not who wrote a file. It is what the tests showed, what was promised publicly, and what happens when the paper trail and the pitch do not match.